Welcome to the weekend edition of the Fast Five by Fear and Greed. I'm Michael Thompson, and hello, Sean Aylmer.
Hello, Michael.
Sean, on weekdays, it's all about the Fast Five, the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. On the weekend, we still keep it to 5 minutes, of course, but we're going to pick out the biggest story of the week, the sleeper story, one that's kind of flying under the radar a little bit, the most remarkable story, and then our favourite story. So let's jump straight into the biggest story of the week. What was it for you, Sean?
Once again, it was the economy and financial markets. This week, we found out that Australia and the US are close to ending their respective rounds of interest rate increases. Starting locally, the Reserve Bank said it will consider pausing further rate hikes when it meets in less than 2 weeks' time. We've had 10 rate hikes in 10 meetings. The central bank clearly thinks it's time to pause it. The comments came from the minutes of the March 7 board meeting. Now, since then, we've had the failure of US-based Silicon Valley Bank, the rescue of Credit Suisse by rival UBS, so plenty going on. Similar deal in the US. They came out, they lifted rates by 25 basis points this week, but they also signalled that they're thinking very differently about future rate rises. In fact, no longer are they talking about ongoing rate increases. So plenty going on in financial markets this week, Michael.
Yeah, sure is. And Sean, I thought there was a big week in politics as well. The most significant event by far was the release of the wording for the referendum expected in October. Now, if approved, the Constitution will be changed to establish an Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander voice to Parliament. Anthony Albanese actually got quite emotional as he was announcing the wording of it, feeling the weight of responsibility. And this is really going to be the big political issue, I suspect, of the next 6 months, and the risk that it will become quite divisive if there's not bipartisan support. The other big story in federal politics this week, Sean, was the drama over the government's safeguard mechanism legislation that's designed to mandate emissions reductions for the 215 biggest carbon emitters in the country. Coalition isn't a fan. Greens don't like the fact that new coal and gas mines can still open. Andrew Forrest says that allowing companies to buy unlimited carbon credits doesn't do enough to reduce pollution. This one is just going to keep on going. Quite a big fight to come in this one. So really, put all the political stories together, I think that is a pretty big week.
Indeed it was. Michael, what's the most remarkable story for you?
The most remarkable for me was a case of terrible, terrible timing, because we had this week the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change warning that countries like Australia will need to make deep, rapid and sustained reductions in greenhouse gas emissions if global warming will be kept to 1.5 degrees. The report says that while commitments have been made and there has been work done, a lot more work is needed. On the same day, Australian coal miner New Hope declared that it will be able to double coal production over the next 6 years, saying it was encouraged by the need for energy security. It's got new mines that are set to deliver the first coal in the next 12 months. I'm not a climate expert, but I don't think this is what the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change had in mind when they called for more action, Sean.
No, a case of very poor timing.
All right, let's move on to sleeper story. So one that's maybe not getting the attention that it deserves. What was yours?
Well, there are a couple of stories around the housing market that didn't get much attention this week. Firstly, was the auction clearance rates last weekend. Sydney came in at 74%, Melbourne's at 69%, Brisbane at 56%, Adelaide 63%, Canberra's 57.5%. These are pretty decent numbers. CoreLogic Research Director Tim Lawless said while it's too early to recall a recovery, the persistently lower level of stocks and rising demand may have started to tilt the market in favour of sellers, at least in some markets. Then came new analysis by the Australian Bankers Association during the week that shows up to 70% of bank customers whose fixed rate mortgages expired in the past 6 months have refinanced with another bank. This is important. It suggests the mortgage cliff we've been talking about might be more of a slope. People will have to pay higher rates, but they're shopping around to get the best deals. Perhaps the housing market isn't the calamity we expect it to be.
Yeah, maybe not. That is a great sleeper story, Sean. Favourite story this week? Mine is an absolute cracker of a story. I'm pretty confident in saying that. And it's all about nickel. We had a big story about a year ago where on the London Metals Exchange, a short position taken by Chinese tycoons saw nickel prices spike. They soared to $100,000 a tonne when it's normally closer to 20,000. Nickel wouldn't normally be that kind of scandalous, but fast forward 12 months and we've had another incident, again involving nickel at the LME. JP Morgan bought $2 million worth of nickel. That nickel turned out not to be nickel. It turned out to be ordinary stones or rocks or something. The LME cancelled 9 nickel contracts after discovering irregularities at a certain warehouse. I just think that is a cracker of a story, don't you think?
Sure is. My favourite story is the one about coffee. 2 billion cups of coffee are drunk every day. Isn't that incredible? And China's demand for coffee is soaring and Starbucks wants to be part of it. Starbucks plans to open a store in China every 9 hours to reach 9,000 locations by 2025. It's already got 6,000 locations. The Chinese are basically becoming addicted to coffee, much like many Western countries. In 2018, there were an estimated 22,000 coffee shops. By 2020, there are 100,000. Be plenty more now. And Starbucks wants to be part of it. It's opening its first roasting plant in China. In fact, it's first in Asia. Has plenty of competitions. There's a Canadian group. There's an Italian brand, Lavazza, who's partnered with Yum China. There's also a local crowd called Luckin Coffee. But tell you what, Michael, I wouldn't bet against Starbucks.
No, they are a behemoth of a coffee company. There we go. 5 minutes and pretty much everything you need to know in the world of business. Thank you very much, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
We'll be back on Monday morning with the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Don't forget to hit follow on the podcast. I'm Michael Thompson, and this is the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed.